Jandel and the rest of the Grow a Garden dev team are desperate right now. After becoming the most played game of all time, the game has completely fallen off. At this point, it only averages around 100,000 concurrent players throughout the week, and we can safely assume a solid portion of those are bots. But honestly, that isn't even the worst indicator that the game is dead. The real red flag is the fact that they've been releasing the biggest updates in Grow a Garden history in a clear attempt to revive the game, and it just isn't working. They added trading, they added quests, and now they've rolled out a massive Christmas update and limited time event, yet none of it is getting players back on the game in meaningful numbers. These aren't small patches either, these are features the community had been asking for, and the player count still refuses to bounce back. If you look at a graph of Grow a Garden's all-time player count, the story is pretty brutal. You can see the massive spike when the game exploded in popularity, followed by a steady and consistent decline that just keeps going down. And unless something actually changes, I genuinely believe that number will continue to drop even further over time. So the big question becomes, how can Grow a Garden actually make a comeback? To answer that, you first have to understand why people stopped playing in the first place. I think the main reason players left is the repetitive nature of the game. At its core, you place crops, wait for them to grow, and then sell them over and over and over again. That loop works for a while, especially when the game is new, but if that's all your game is, it's eventually going to get stale. And once players feel like they've seen everything, there's no real reason to keep logging on. Now, to be fair, Grow a Garden does try to spice things up with events and updates, but I don't think those updates are enough to actually keep players around because the main game loop never changes. No matter how many quests or events you add, players are still doing the exact same thing they were doing months ago, just with a different coat of paint. That's the real problem. The updates don't fundamentally change how the game is played, they just sit on top of an already repetitive system. And once players realize that, they leave again just as fast as they came back. So what could Jandel actually do to revive his game? Honestly, I think he needs to completely shake things up. Not just another event, not just another crop, but a real change that makes the game feel fresh and different from what it's always been. I'll be honest, I'm not the most avid Grow a Garden player, so I don't want to pretend I know exactly what should be added, but that's where you come in. Let me know in the comments what Jandel should add or change to actually get people playing again, because at this point, if something drastic doesn't happen soon, Grow a Garden's decline might be impossible to stop.